I think I found my new favorite episode of RWBY. Honestly, everything about episode 11 of Volume 7 was fantastic. The fights, the choreography, the information, and the scene that was set by the end of the episode was just amazing. So, if possible, try to go into it unspoiled if you can, as I will say spoiler warning for those who haven't seen the episode, because in this video I will not be showing the episode or any clips from it, simply images of the episode and analyzing the events that take place. So I will leave a link in the description below so you guys can go to Rooster Teeth first, watch the episode there, and support this series that we all love. Because this episode starts off immediately into the fight with Watts and Ironwood, as they are squaring off in Amity Coliseum. Watts has the high ground on some of the platforms, and Ironwood is standing center stage. As we saw last episode, Watts goes to point his gun at Ironwood, and so in response we see Ironwood point his gun at the ground. Which seems odd at first, but it turns out Ironwood uses his guns for mobility. Which begs the question. You know, there's a bit of a purple flash when he's firing his guns, so is that due to gravity dust, which is more likely, or is it just the fact that the guns are outputting that much force that it can launch himself off the ground? I doubt this is the case, as if it was, there would be enough recoil to rip his arm off his body. Because he's firing it using his regular arm, not his metal arm. His metal arm I can understand withholding that much kind of force, but no, not his human arm, so I'm guessing it's probably gravity dust. But this allows for such a unique fighting style that's just amazing. And it seems like he has a lot of bullets loaded into each gun, so he has a lot of variation in the mobility he can use. He doesn't have to use them that sparingly. So he launches himself up to Watts and they start fighting. Watts is able to use his rings to manipulate the environment. It turns out these platforms, this one zone of Amity Coliseum that we didn't actually get to see utilized in Volume 3, is a gravity stage. So when the platforms are white, or the ring around them is white, the gravity is on that platform. When it's purple, it's pushing away from that platform. So it's very interesting that gravity is really incorporated into this. You know, hence the name of the episode, Gravity. But it also has other meanings which will come to light later. So Watts and Ironwood are having this little fight, and Watts is holding his own. You know, he's not as strong as Ironwood, but he is just as fast and is able to use his technological prowess and his brains to work things into his favor. He's also able to create hard light dust platforms so that he can run from one location to another, and also, while doing that, manipulate Amity Coliseum to get the other elemental stages to kind of do some work for him as well. Ironwood is able to follow Watts across the hard light dust platforms, and then gets blasted by a geyser that comes up out of one of the water areas, which, you know, this makes me question as to how exactly these hard light dust areas work. Because this is obviously something created by Watts, I believe, because it's disappearing almost immediately after Ironwood steps foot on it, but it's appearing very well for when Watts is putting his foot on it. And it's also the same kind of shield, or the same kind of platform that his shield is made out of, so it's probably Watts creating this, right? So how is he directing this? How can he make it, you know, stay in that one area and not move? How is it locked in the air? I don't know if this is something to do with the technology of Amity or what it is, but I'm curious as to how this works, because his shield is generated by the rings in his hand, and thus it's moving alongside his hand. I understand that these platforms aren't really generated from anything, so they're only there temporarily, but still. And Ironwood's able to follow Watts across them, so it's interesting. And so they end up, you know, having a little bit of back and forth, which is pretty interesting to see. We also see Ironwood's aura color. It is a blue color, a light blue. I think it's close to Weiss's color, but different. And yeah, they end up having a little exchange, and we see that Watts, although he can hold his own to some extent, Ironwood is just more powerful and is able to beat him back. And yeah, close combat's not really Watts' strong suit, but he is quite agile and able to, you know, get in a couple hits here and there. They end up having a clash, and Watts ends up trying to do the same thing again. Run across platforms and lure Ironwood into another geyser coming up, this time from a fire zone, so it would cause a little bit more damage. However, Ironwood doesn't fall for it this time. Instead, he takes an alternate route around and is able to get the jump on Watts. And we see Watts' aura color now. It is a bright green. similar to Pietro's and what I would think Penny's would be as well, but not exactly the same. When I first saw it, I thought, oh my god, it's the exact same color as Pietro's. Maybe they're related, but I don't think that's the case unless Pietro's aura is a brighter color if it wasn't, damaged. But they end up having another little scuffle, and Watts' aura actually gets broken. And we see new animations for how aura is breaking, that it kind of goes into a little bit of dust or particle effects after it breaks. They end up, Ironwood ends up tackling Watts and launching both of them off of the platform to center stage. Now, this breaks Ironwood's aura as well. We see the particle effect come on him, and his aura is broken. So the impact was able to do that. But Watts, on the other hand, should probably be paralyzed from this fall. His aura was already broken, he took the full hit, not to mention the way he landed should snap his back. So unless he has cybernetic enhancements as well to, give himself a metal spine, I don't know. I feel like Watts should have been paralyzed by this. And then, now that they're center stage, Watts starts raising the platform to get a little bit more height in there, and in this moment, Watts starts talking to Ironwood, and I have never heard him sound more like Vegeta than right now. Because if you didn't know, the voice actor for Watts is also the voice actor for Vegeta. And especially when he starts talking to Ironwood about saying, you never appreciated my intellect and everything, and chose that fat imbecile. Referring to Pietro, of course, but Vegeta uses the word imbecile when referring to Goku, fairly often in the English dub, and it sounded like word for word, tone for tone, exactly the same, and that was amazing. And at this point, they start more having a fist fight brawl. Both of them are out of bullets, but that's not explicitly stated. Instead, it's shown by both of them using the blunt ends of their guns to kind of beat each other half to death. And Ironwood ends up pushing Watts back, because now that it's close combat, Watts, he is able to block some of Ironwood's blows, so he has some training in fighting and some ability to fight, but in the end he does get pushed back. And Watts kind of bluffs, saying that, oh, it looks like my brains has outwitted your bronze, or at least is equal to your bronze in this moment, by pointing his gun at Ironwood's head. But throughout this entire fight, Watts has been counting the bullets that he has in his gun. He knows he's out, and Ironwood's been counting as well, so they both realize that they're both out of ammo, and so Watts kind of drops his gun, and Ironwood lets his guard down for a brief moment. And this allows Watts to get the jump on him. So what Watts does is he grabs Ironwood's, still flesh arm and sticks it through the hard light dust shield that he was able to generate using his rings. He sticks his rings to a metal column behind him and traps Ironwood's arm in it. Now, hard light dust, it's a good shield, but when there's something that's already trapped in it, apparently that starts incinerating it, or at least causing some serious damage, especially if something is being forced to pass through it. And Ironwood's arm is, let's just say it's being stripped bare. Like, it is not looking good. And this is where Watts makes a big underestimation of Ironwood, as he turns his back on Ironwood, saying, oh, you shouldn't do that unless you want to add more metal to your body, implying that this would be sacrificing his arm, and didn't think that Ironwood would do that. So he goes and focuses on Amity Coliseum, seeing how he can dismantle and destroy it. Well, it takes all Ironwood about, 10 seconds, and he rips his arm out of there and pretty much sacrifices it so that he can get the jump on Watts and prevent him from destroying Amity. And at this point, he drags Watts' face across the ground and holds him over the edge, preparing to drop him from, the height that Watts raised them up to. So, yeah, Ironwood's victorious, though he did sacrifice his arm to do so. Now, it seems he was able to move his arm afterwards, very briefly, but it wasn't like he was able to clench his fist or anything. I'm sure there was nerve damage. I don't know how much he'll be able to regenerate it, or if he will just end up sacrificing the arm and replacing it with another mechanical part. If he survives this volume, because, things are happening that he may have a few death flags on him, and things may not turn out so well for him, but we'll see what ends up happening. I hope he ends up turning out okay, because he really deserves to at least have some happiness, because he's been suffering for a while. Anyways, he's holding Watts over the gap threatening to drop him, and Ironwood says that he will sacrifice whatever he has to, or whatever is necessary, to defeat Salem. And Watts just smiles and said, "I hope you do." Hoping that Ironwood sacrifices everything, including his humanity, so that he can eventually defeat Salem. And it looks like Watts is going to get what he wanted, because Ironwood's making some preparations to do almost just that. But this is where this fight ends, and although it wasn't maybe as long as some people had hoped, I'm fully satisfied with it. This was a great fight. We did not get to see Ironwood and Watts's semblances, but Watts has his aura. His aura is activated, so it's fully possible that he does have his semblance. It just might not be a combat-style semblance. Similarly with Ironwood, maybe there was something to do with his semblance involving him, using his guns to fly from platform to platform, but, we'll see, hopefully get a reveal of Ironwood's semblance and Watts' semblance if he has another role to play. But now we cut to the better fight, in my opinion. I loved the fight between Ironwood and Watts, but the fight between Tyrion, Clover, and Crow, and Robin was fantastic. Like, this one didn't really have much in it other than just a straight-up brawl, and it was a lot shorter, only 2 minutes, but it was so well done. Like, the fact that Tyrion was this outmatched, he was facing 3 trained veteran huntsmen and huntress, and he was able to hold his own quite well. Like, Crow went on the offensive and was the straight-up brawler melee fighter. Clover acted as more of a support melee fighter, standing back, letting Crow do the direct hand-to-hand combat, assisting with his fishing rod, etc. And Robin was the pretty much ranged user and the tactician of the group, because she did a few things that are pretty damn impressive. But the most badass thing about this entire fight was that Crow used a new fighting style. He's always fought either with his sword or with his scythe, but now he fought, at least in this fight, in having his weapon in a short scythe mode. So he wielded it with the, just the regular sword handle, but had the full blade of the scythe out. That was fantastic to see, and he was able to hold his own against Tyrion. And then there was one scene where Robin was firing arrows this entire time, distracting Tyrion, as well as Clover using his fishing rod, etc., kind of letting it so Crow could get hits in here and there. And Robin fired 2 arrows at one point, rebounding them off of different things. The alleyway, the metal pipes that were there, and one of them rebounded off a pipe, off of Crow's sword, and hits Tyrion in the face. To be able to do that in an alleyway that, unless she already mapped it out beforehand, being able to calculate the trajectory or visualize the trajectory of an arrow that you're going to shoot, to have it rebound twice and then hit someone, point blank in the face, that's pretty impressive. Robin's got a lot more skills than she's letting on. I mean, she was a top graduate of Atlas Academy, so it makes sense, but still, that is pretty impressive. And throughout this fight, Tyrion's been catching the arrows and beating them back, but he's been holding his own. And at this point, after taking a couple hits, especially that arrow to the face that did damage his aura, he starts giving into his insanity a little bit. He's really enjoying himself for the most part. And then Robin fires one more arrow, and Tyrion, in his craziness, catches it with his teeth. And since none of the arrows have been anything but arrows this entire fight, he wouldn't expect it to be anything different. But this one is different. It's a bomb. It blows up in his face, shatters his aura, and, knocks him for a loop. Having that much of a concussive force right next to your skull would send your brain spinning. So he drops to the ground a little bit out of it, and Robin comes over and just boots him in the face, knocking him out. And then, of course, the Clover calls Ironwood, saying, we've defeated Tyrion, he's captured, and, yeah, so we're all good on this end. This fight was amazing. I watched it a few times. Like, I highly recommend going back, watching this again, seeing the different things that happened throughout this fight, because it is really impressive how well it's done. I'm really impressed with the choreography that they have because, you know, Monty was the main choreographer for the first 2 volumes, and the fights were spectacular, and this was different, but still very good. I really, really enjoyed this. And then we see Ironwood entering his office as he's getting the call from Clover saying that Tyrion has been captured. Knowing that he's also captured Watts, he breathes a brief sigh of relief. I'm sure knowing that both of these people who've been causing all this chaos are now in custody, he thinks that maybe there'll be a brief chance at peace. But in these brief moments where you can breathe this sigh of relief, that is when true despair has the opportunity to set in. This moment does not last long. As he's walking into the office, carrying Watts' bag, by the way, which is relevant, he sees something that absolutely just shocks him. We don't get to see the color drain from his face in the video or in the episode, but I'm sure it did. He drops Watts' bag and immediately calls Winter. Winter's directing students into the school, telling them where to go, etc. And she gets a call from Ironwood saying, "Did you spot anyone infiltrating the school? Anyone at all? Are you sure?" Winter's saying, like, no, there wasn't anyone. And then we see her immediately run off, and in a window up in the school above her, we see Cinder. Somehow Cinder did infiltrate the school. And it wasn't with Neo's help, I don't think, or actually it might have been because her target, Neo's target, was Oscar, and he was at the school as well as where Cinder wanted to go, so they probably just used Neo's illusion to get in, actually. But Winter runs off. Cinder says to herself, monologuing again, that lead me to the Winter Maiden. She's getting Ironwood's paranoia. She's playing him like a fiddle to guide her right to the Winter Maiden so she can take the powers. And we also see that Penny gets a call, and she's directed somewhere as well, likely by Ironwood in this state of panic. And it is panic because he's calling everyone back from Mantle, the Aesops, Team RWBY and Team Juniper, as the evacuation's still going on, so they're a bit confused as to why Ironwood would do this. I'm guessing a majority of the Grim attack is already taken care of, but still, people need to be evacuated, as I'm sure there's still more Grim on the way. A lot of panic happened. And this is when we get a statement from Elm that I guess is fitting for the Aesops, because they are very loyal, but, you know, you don't need to understand orders, you just need to follow them. Or rather, this could be interpreted as soldiers have no need to think, they just need to follow orders. And I really disagree with that. Sure, if they want to have one person in charge just directing people and have them obey without questioning, sure. But having soldiers that have a brain and can think on their own and can adapt to the situation, even if strict orders are in place, seems beneficial to me. But Elm is just completely obedient of Ironwood. Like, you know, some flexibility seems like a good thing, but, you know, we'll see how it ends up playing out in the future. So Jean, Ren, Nora, they say, we'll go get Oscar and meet you guys in the office later. So everyone does go to the office. So it's Team RWBY and 4 members of the Aesops, as Clover is with Crow and Robin and Tyrion. But, so Team RWBY, 4 members of the Aesops, Marrow, Harriet, Elm, and Vine, as well as Ironwood, are all in the office. Ironwood, as we see, he has his arm bandaged up and in a sling, so it's not, you know, gone or anything like that. Didn't have to be amputated. I don't know if he did that himself or actually went to a nurse or doctor to actually get it looked at yet, but still, he has Watts' bag sitting on his desk as well, and he places a Black Queen chess piece, saying that we've made a crucial mistake. We defeated Watts and Tyrion, but someone was here. Someone was in my office, and he gets so paranoid. All of that fear that he had before, this little chess piece brought it all back. And he starts thinking if Mantle was a setup, wanting to lure everyone to Atlas was a setup. Thousands of people are entering Atlas en masse. So, you know, if, for example, the thing keeping it floating, which is one little stick, a very powerful stick, but if it was to just be removed from its pedestal, yeah, you know, things come crashing down. And RWBY notices that the chest piece is glass, black glass, something that is a semblance of another, one scorching caress from Cinder Fall. So she realizes that it's Cinder, which is surprising because Yang saw her die, or at least knew she was defeated by Raven, and when she got down to the relic room, there was no one there. So yeah, Cinder should have been dead, but nope. And I think that would have been a fitting end for Cinder if she died at the end of Volume 5, personally, but I'm interested to see where this goes. I'm not upset that she's back, and that she has her focuses in order, you know, Relic first, Maiden Powers first, then revenge on Ruby, once she's redeemed herself in the eyes of Salem. Neo may not follow along with that, but we'll see, again, what ends up happening in the future. So, with Ironwood giving into panic, Blake tries to comfort it, saying that, we're here, we're on your side. Well, are they? Well, they lied about some things. They lied about everything that the lamp told them. They lied about telling Robin Hill about Amity Coliseum. Ironwood questions them, and Yang and Blake admit to it. They said, you know, we did tell Robin. You know, we thought she's always been on our side. We thought we could trust her. She is on our side. We can trust her. But Ironwood says we didn't know that at the time, and this kind of sends everyone into a bit of an angry state. Ironwood screams, you know, loyalty's important. It's always important, which is very true. But as this entire conversation's going on, Watts's bag starts bulging, like there's something living inside of it. Which only begs the question, Ironwood, you brought this bag into your office, into the school that is housing the relic. You didn't bother to check the thing beforehand? Maybe it was locked or something, but it seems pretty important as he just smuggled a Grim into the school. A Seer Grim pops out of the bag, which absolutely terrifies Ironwood as Salem starts talking. Ironwood just backs up, and his back is literally against the wall now, as the Seer Grim kind of kills itself, actually. It seems to be writhing in pain. Its tentacles kind of shoot up into its body, the glass orb cracks, and it falls to the ground. And then a shadow appears out of it, and Salem herself decides to pay a visit, though not directly yet. She congratulates everyone on defeating Arthur Watts, but also says that their intention was never to win. They were just setting the stage for her. So I was right in saying that Salem is leading her army personally, which was hinted at the end of Volume 6 when Hazel said, you know, if you can't get something done, do it yourself. Salem's coming personally to Atlas, and unfortunately that seems like it's going to mean it's going to be in the next 2 episodes, because I think there's only episode 12 and 13 of Volume 7 left. I feel like we need a lot more time in Atlas for this to be fully, you know, developed. We had the fight between Watts and Tyrion that's been building up all season. The fights were quick, but their overall mayhem was prolonged. That makes sense. Nothing has really felt too rushed to me so far, but if the entirety of Salem's attack happens in just the next 2 episodes, unless they're a half hour apiece, I don't think it's going to be enough time, but we'll see. Salem, though, turns to Ironwood and asks, well, not asks, but says, hasn't Atlas suffered enough? Just hand over the lamp and the staff, and everyone can be left alone. Ironwood, although terrified, does stand his ground and says that'll never happen. He's getting desperate, but he still has his goals in mind, though he's grasping at them by whatever means he can. And then Ruby decides to speak up. Now, I think Ruby, she has been developing more as a leader, but she's still only like 18. She's still 17, actually. She was 15 at the start of the series. She's only 17. So she's, you know, I think she's overstepping her bounds just a little bit by, you know, stepping up, talking to Salem directly, and, you know, being as overconfident as she is. I know, you know, you kind of have to do that. You have to show no fear and everything, but still, it seemed a bit much for Ruby to do this. And she turns to Salem and says, the lamp showed us everything. We know that you can't be killed. And we know you have also failed. We don't have to kill you to defeat you, but we will defeat you. And Salem has a response to this that absolutely cripples Ruby. Your mother said those same words to me. So, I'm just gonna leave these here, just just something I thought of a little while ago. But yeah, it seems like Summer Rose did actually go to face Salem. At least came face to face with her at some point, which probably led to her demise or capture, or we still don't know if Summer Rose is actually alive, but yeah. Which also begs the question, Salem said to Ruby, Summer said, or your mother said those same words to me. How many of those words are we talking about? Is this including using a question of the relic? The lamp showed them all this. You know, I don't necessarily think that's the case, but I do think Summer used that last question. May have been to find out Salem's past as well. You know, I want to know what exactly Salem meant by this and how much... We need more about Summer Rose. That's basically what I'm saying here. And we also get a scene with Ruby as she realizes this, my mother, and she starts freaking out. Like, things seem to be just malfunctioning within her. We see her silver eyes start to glow, which we know from Maria, the power comes from wanting to preserve life, cherishing life. So the fact that they were glowing here when Ruby was giving into despair, possibly hatred towards Salem, leads me to believe that there might be a corrupted version of the Silver Eyes, and that might be one of Salem's goals. Maybe another video on that at some point in the future. But needless to say, Ruby, as she's envisioning her mother in not the happiest of circumstances, she collapses, starts crying, collapses, and with that, Salem just vanishes, seeming like her goals were accomplished. She wanted to intimidate Ironwood, and it seems just mess with Ruby a little bit. So, you know, things are starting to happen. Now that the Seer Grim has disappeared, or should I say Salem's greeting card, because that's essentially what the Grim was, wasn't really any threat, but was here to say hello and warn everyone that Salem's on her way, the Aesops are left a little bit bewildered, finally seeing the face of the enemy they're facing, and also going to meet her face to face very soon. They realize that they have border defenses or border warning systems that should, you know, warn for things like this. So they finally check them and find out that they're all deactivated. Whether Watts did it, or as Ironwood points out, maybe they're all destroyed already. The dude's already accepted that Salem's coming and that there's nothing they can do to stop her. Because he's already now told them that, well, he already sent Winter to claim the Winter Maiden powers. Not protect the Winter Maiden, claim the powers. Meaning that either Ironwood ordered Winter to use the aura transfer device to take the powers from Freya, or to straight up kill Freya in hopes that Winter will get the powers. There's no guarantee, and I highly doubt at this point that it's gonna go through the way that Ironwood plans. If Winter gets the powers, I don't know how long she's gonna live in the series, which I really don't want Winter to die, or someone else is gonna get the powers, which there seems to be a new candidate in the running at this point. But Ironwood says that the relic of creation and knowledge need to be locked away along with the Winter Maiden, because his plan is now the same that they had for Amity, but now applying it to Atlas, engaging the staff and raising them up to the atmosphere, saying that, you know, the environmental systems and everything will keep everyone safe in Atlas, but it will be completely out of Salem's reach, whatever she does. So he's planning on running and hiding, leaving Mantle to die. And Ironwood's response to this is saying that sometimes the right choice involves making hard decisions. As the rest of Team RWBY points out, you know, standing and fighting is the right decision, which is the harder choice out of the two because, you know, he would have to actually stand and face Salem himself, who he's deeply afraid of. He is giving so much into his paranoia, and the way that everything is portrayed in this episode is really, really great. The topic of the council is then brought up, and Ironwood's response to that is they can't do anything. I don't think they would do anything either because they believe in Ironwood's cause now. They know about Salem, etc. So, you know, but Ironwood's just going to declare martial law, so military just has complete authority to do whatever they want. And Blake then asks, what about Robin? Which prompts the question, where do your loyalties lie? Which the correct response is what RWBY gave, is that the loyalties lie to the people they're trying to protect. But, you know, now it doesn't really seem that way. It's going towards self-preservation, at least in Ironwood's mind. He's saving who we can, including themselves. And then we get a call from Jean, or RWBY gets a call from Jean, saying that they have a serious problem. But before that happens, RWBY hops around Ironwood using her semblance and does a group call to Crow, to Winter. It's surprising that RWBY actually has Winter's phone number, as well as Jean, and says Ironwood's going to declare martial law. He's going to launch Atlas into the atmosphere, leaving Mantle to die. So Ironwood, cuts the conversation immediately after that, but everyone hears what the plan is. Winter is with Penny. So that was Penny's orders, to go with Winter to take the Winter Maiden powers. Makes me wonder if Penny actually has the capacity to get the Winter Maiden powers. Something that I'm now wondering. We also see that John, Ren, and Nora now know, or at least John knows, about what's about to happen, as well as Crow and Robin and Clover and Tyrion as well, as they are all in a plane on the way to Atlas. So, yeah, things are going to get real interesting there. Crow and Robin look angry at Clover, and Clover's just sitting there wondering about what's going on. Tyrion's just looking real happy about the chaos that's about to ensue. And then we cut back to Ironwood's office, where things are getting really interesting. Ironwood says he cut the conversation first, he cut the communications, and he says that until all of this is said and done, until the relics are safe, you are all under arrest, which Team RWBY isn't going to take lying down, and the Aesops stand to guard Ironwood against Team RWBY. So we're going to get the Aesops, at least 4 of the members, versus Team RWBY, which is going to be really interesting. I'm looking forward to that fight taking place. Ironwood's office is going to get trashed, by the way. And the final scene of the episode, as Ironwood's walking away, we cut to Jean, Ren, and Nora. John didn't get the chance to tell him what that serious problem they had was, but we see that they are standing in Oscar's room, or what used to be Oscar's room, where there are destroyed Elysian Knights as well as scorch marks all along the wall. Scorch marks imply that Cinder may have actually been the one to find Oscar and attack him, or maybe it was Neo, but I don't really think she has anything that could leave scorch marks. Similarly with Oscar, maybe he awakened his semblance or something that caused the scorch marks and he was in the fight as well. I don't know. Or maybe Oscar actually talked to Ozpin, found something out. Maybe Ozpin took control because he realized something was happening. There's a few different possibilities that could happen here, but this is where the episode ends overall, and holy crap, it was a good one. A little bit longer of a review, too, I realize, as there's a lot of things that I want to talk about, and some decisions are going to have to be made next episode. It seems like it's going to be a fight between, obviously, Team RWBY and the 4 members of the Aesops. Vine, Harriet, and Elm seem very, loyal to Ironwood. They are standing strong, ready to fight. Marrow, through all of this, he is the newbie to the Aesops, and he's looking very concerned. We've seen that he has kind of warmed up to Team RWBY and Jean and everyone throughout their time together and fighting alongside each other. I think Marrow is the traitor to the Aesops, but not in the way that I was describing before, as in traitor to Ironwood in favor of Salem, but rather traitor to Ironwood in favor of Team RWBY. I think Marrow might actually switch sides in the middle of this fight, or at least have some questioning, maybe letting Team RWBY, or at least one member of Team RWBY, go so that they can try to prevent Ironwood, because maybe he doesn't actually agree with this and is not just being a regular toy soldier thinking for himself. And speaking of thinking for themselves, Winter and Penny, they're currently going to guard the Winter Maiden, or I guess take the Winter Maiden's powers. Still curious how that's going to take place, but Cinder's going to follow them, and there's going to be a clash here between Cinder, Penny, and Winter. Not to mention Freya's also going to be there, so the Winter Maiden powers are probably going to go to one of these 3 people. So, or maybe actually Neo might show up there and interfere with things. I already, brought up the possibilities that could be available with Neo's semblance and her illusions, and that could throw a wrench into things, but it seems likely that either Cinder, Penny, or Winter will get the Maiden powers. Whoever gets them, though, let's see how long they actually keep them. But now Penny and Winter are going to have to choose between following Ironwood's orders and actually taking the Winter Maiden powers by force, or, siding with RWBY, not thinking that this is the best action to take, abandoning all of Mantle for it to be destroyed. I know Penny, as the protector of Mantle, is going to have some strong emotions on this, not to mention Winter she's fiercely loyal to Ironwood, but I think this might even draw into question some of the actions, though I'm sure she already feels like she failed by letting someone infiltrate, and having Cinder follow her there is going to really drive her to want to prove herself once again in Ironwood's eyes. So I think Penny and Winter might actually come to be at odds as well. Then there's also how things are going to go with Crow, Robin, Tyrion, and Clover, because they're in a confined space right now. That's not a place to have a fight. I'm guessing it's probably a drone that's piloting this ship, but if it's an actual, human soldier or Faunus soldier, then they're putting that person in danger too if they decide to fight. Because, Tyrion, if he gets loose, will gladly fight. Not to mention they also had to use a second pair of the binding cuffs around Tyrion's torso to bind his tail to his body. I'm pretty sure that if he leaned one way or another, he could scratch someone with his tail, so that might happen to Clover since he's sitting right next to him. But Clover didn't look over angrily at Robin at Crow when Robin and Crow glared angrily at him after finding out what Ironwood was actually doing now. So I think Clover is a bit confused because these orders weren't conveyed to him. He wasn't actually there or listening to the entire conversation that took place between Ironwood, Team RWBY, and the rest of the Aesops. So Clover might actually say, hey, let's hang on a sec and find out what exactly is happening. Let's see if we can talk to Ironwood and, figure out more of the situation. Because if an actual fight breaks out right there, while they're over the air, over top of Atlas, or possibly still over top of Mantle, wherever they may be, yeah, someone's going to fall to their death, because I don't think Aura can, help you survive that much of a fall. Though we did see Watts, without an Aura, survive. That had to have been like a 3 or 4 story fall. He landed on the square of his back, and he pretty much, fishboned himself, and he still got up and was walking just fine. His Aura was broken. I feel like he should at very least have snapped his spine, but I don't know. And, everything that happened this episode is just amazing. Oscar, I don't know exactly where he is, but I do have a couple ideas. If Cinder or Neo were the ones to capture him, probably Neo, considering Cinder ordered Neo to go after him, and Cinder was following Winter. Cinder's going to go after the Winter Maiden. Neo probably went after Oscar. The fact that he actually took Oscar from there means that maybe Oscar was able to hold his own, get away, and start running, and then they're going to have some encounter later on. We're going to find out what exactly happened to him, but this opens up the opportunity that Oscar, or potentially Ozpin, or if they've already started to combine, both of them, will be able to talk to Neo and maybe persuade her to switch sides, or at least switch from Cinder's side to more focusing on herself and, not helping Salem destroy all of humanity. Something like that. Or, as I mentioned, Oscar may have broken out himself, realized that something was going on. Ozpin might have told him about something, or Ironwood's personality, or they realized something looking out the window, seeing things happening. Who knows exactly what it was, but I have an idea that Oscar may have escaped on his own, and since Oscar knows where the Relic of Creation is, that's where he's being taken, or potentially that's where Neo is taking him. And I think Oscar might actually be the one to remove the Relic of Creation, thus dropping Atlas before Ironwood can actually raise it to the sky. That might be an interesting turn of events, because Oscar, or Ozpin, now knowing that this isn't the way, secluding themselves from the world, running from Salem and hiding the relics away in the atmosphere might be effective temporarily, but eventually something's going to have to give. The rest of the people on Remnant, if they're all wiped out, then there is absolutely no hope for anyone to stand a chance against Salem. So, yeah, I think actually Oscar might pull the Relic of Creation. Or Oscar was captured by Neo, and Neo will pull the Relic of Creation to get one over on Cinder, then Neo will have 2 relics, and then Neo will be all-powerful. Yeah, that's a possibility too. So, let me know what you guys think down in the comments below. How do you think this is all going to turn out? How did you enjoy the fights that were in this episode? How did you enjoy the episode as a whole? Everything was so well done. The fights, getting the amount of time that they did, and it was just really great seeing Shadow Salem, the information that was dropped. Summer Rose did go to Salem and face Salem. Whether she was actually killed, it seems likely. You know, a lot of things happened, so let me know what you guys think. I'm really, really interested in knowing, and I hope you guys enjoyed this episode as well as this review. And if you did, make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. Tweet me at Phoenix Knight 7, all of that stuff, and I'll see you guys in the next video.